Got another 2018 that just popped up here in the middle of April of 2026. This is VIN 2711. Now this is a 2018 083, which is ultra white with LA30 red interior. So that's the most common spec, but it is the lowest production year. It's for sale at Porsche Northwest in Atlanta with 118,000 miles for $46,000. Sounds like a pretty low price for a 2018, but it does have a lot of miles. And so we'll dive into it a little bit and see if that price is fair. One of the things to note with this car, it's one of the few cars that does not have Mark Levinson audio. So that is something to note. If you're looking for the awesome stereo that is the Mark Levinson, this car doesn't have it. And there's very few of them that didn't, but this is one of them. Production statistics, 648 out of the 2,348 cars for the US 49 were ultra white, and of those, 361 had LA30 red interior. That's 15.37% of all of the US 49 production. It is the most common color combination that you can find on these cars. For 2018, as I said, it's the lowest production year. There were only 53 out of the 169 cars for 2018, and only 30 of those had LA30 red interior. So this car is one of 30. It's rare only because it's a 2018 as far as the color combination goes. Fun fact with this car, it is the 10th to last 2018 that was ever produced for the US 49 before the 2019 anniversary models and everything started. Carfax, Epic VIN, and AutoCheck. So I've had a couple discrepancies recently, specifically with Carfax. The very last video I did, it's either VIN 662 or 1979, 1779, something like that. My 2024 Carfax that I have on this car shows a 6-owner, no accident car. April of 2026 now, it shows 3 owners and no accidents. And diving into that a little bit, I think what went on was it looks like the selling dealer was accidentally also listing this car for sale, and all of the online sources picked up on that, and it may have shown it as another owner. So Carfax, 6 owners, then 2 years later it shows it as a 3-owner. Epic VIN in my 2024 report shows it as a 7-owner car, no accidents, and in April of 2026, 3 owners, no accident. So it's kind of weird with what's going on there. AutoCheck shows this, I didn't have an AutoCheck from before, but AutoCheck now shows this as a 3-owner, no accident car. So I think it is a 3+ owner car, but I don't think it's a 6 or 7. So it could be like a 4 or 5 owner car, and we'll dive into that in the previous sales and you'll see what I mean. Speaking of previous sales, there was no original sale of this car because it was owned by Lexus. And so the window sticker, which you can see right here, it was optioned 2 things. One, it was direct delivery to Lexus. So it was prepped at Lexus of San Antonio, but it was direct delivery, and it was an LCCS option, which is the Lexus Loan Car Customer Service Program. So this car was a loaner car for TMS, for Toyota Marketing. And so I don't know if it was actually used as a loan car or if it just belonged to TMS, Toyota Motor Sales, which is their marketing arm. Generally on a car like this, it's not spec'd with Mark Levinson audio. Some of those were press cars. I don't think that was the case here, but others were show cars. So this car not having the Mark Levinson option, which is almost a $1,500 option, it's a lower spec car. It's not a no option car because it does have orange calipers, it has the heads up display, it has the polished split wheels instead of gray. It has some other options, it just doesn't have the Mark Levinson. But it looks like Lexus of North Park, they were the ones that either kept it or serviced it for about the first 1.5 years and about 17,000 miles. So then it was sold to its 2nd owner in Georgia in October of 2019, and I don't see a public sale for that too. So it was either just immediately purchased from Lexus or an employee bought it, something like that. So then in July of 2021, it was for sale by the original Lexus dealer in San Antonio, but it's still being serviced in Georgia. So something's not quite jiving there. So I think that's where some of these are picking up that additional owner right here. But it looks like the 3rd owner acquired it private sale in January of 2022, still in Georgia, but only had it for about 2 months. And then it was shown for sale again back in Texas in San Antonio at that same dealer, but still being in Georgia. So it's something like that is going on where they're picking up an additional 2 owners. But then it was for sale, the air quotes 4th owner, January of 2023 in Georgia, but only 2 months later, again to the 5th owner, still in Georgia. So it's a different title number. So I don't think it's the owner didn't just move to a new location or something. It's actually being transferred as a new ownership. It could be a father selling to the son, or selling a married couple selling to an individual, like one or the other. I've seen things like that, but it still counts as another owner. So there's a little bit of a question there. The 6th owner on Carfax, it acquired it in October of 2023 in Georgia, and now here in April of 2026, $46,000 with 118,000 miles. So to me, this car looks like it's probably like a 5-owner car. I don't think it's a 3-owner car, but we'll just call it, for all intents and purposes here, a 3+ owner, no accident car. It looks like it's a Texas and Georgia pretty its whole life. So now into the photos. There are currently no listed photos. However, I did inquire. Porsche in Atlanta is a pretty highly respected dealership. And so they're usually very responsive, and that's why I reached out to them. And I got a video back from the salesman. I got a bunch of photos. Somebody else had reached out, got a bunch of photos. And so I'm not just surprised to see, like, within a couple hours, you had an answer on this. So this car, even though there's no public photos, I'll share everything with you here. And at the end of this video, I will post the video that the salesman sent me with the audio and everything, so you can hear what he's saying. But basically, the big thing that I've noted, this car doesn't have Mark Levinson audio, and that's confirmed when I'm looking inside and everything. You don't see the Mark Levinson logo right in the middle. So this car has the base model stereo. The other big thing I see is the brakes are worn so thin that the slots on the rotors are basically gone, front and rear. So this car definitely needs brakes all around at a minimum. Going around the outside, it's got some chips and things on the outside. I don't think it has paint protection film. It has 120,000 miles on it. But the interior, the touch points, they look okay. They look like a car with 120,000 miles. They don't look excessively worn, but it does look used. And then, of course, the carbon fiber on the left and the right of the front dash is delaminating. So if you're going to replace those, you're looking at like $3,000, $2,500 to replace those, or you can send them to SMA Fabrication in Florida for a couple $100, and you can have those refinished. This car basically just presents like a car with 120,000 miles on it, and so I don't see any surprises. I don't see any shockers. We all know that the carbon fiber trim delaminates, so again, that's not a surprise, and that shouldn't worry you too much. Just know that you're going to have to replace it, and with new, it's expensive, or you can get it refinished so it doesn't do it again. So that brings me to the price. This car, had I not seen the photos and the video, I would say for the mileage, and as you can see in the graph here, for the mileage, the car is fairly well priced. $46,000. It sounds cheap to me, but remember 2018s trade for a little higher than the 16s and 17s. They have the 4G telecommunications module, the 18, 19s, and 20s. So you can still remote start this car with the app. You can check the status, the fuel level, the lock and unlock the doors through the app, through the paid subscription. This car, you can still do that. So because of that, they trade for a little bit higher anyway. However, with 120,000 miles on it, if it needed nothing, $45,000, $46,000, that's a pretty fair price. This obviously needs brakes, needs carbon fiber trim replaced. It may need tires. I don't see anything about recent tire replacement, so you kind of have to factor that into the price. For me, I would probably try to get this car in the low 40s, because brake job, if you do the brakes yourself, buy the Brembo parts off of Rock Auto and some Power Stop Z26 pads, you're at like $600 to do brakes. Or if you do it at the dealer, $2,000 to $3,000 for a brake job on these cars all around. Factor in tires, Michelin Pilot Sport 4S's, they're about $1,600, plus install, balance, everything else, you're about $2,000. So if you put all the math together, you're gonna have to spend probably $4,000 to $5,000 on this car just to get it up to snuff. That's not including any other maintenance that it may need, like transmission service, TVD service, which we'll get into that in the service history. But for me, I think low 40s is probably a fair price for this car, not where it's at based on what I can see. So speaking of the service history, it is a fairly well dealer serviced car as well. So it's another good thing you'd like to see. The first entry of note, when it was brand new, and this may give a little bit of insight into the Lexus ownership of this car. June of 2018, courtesy delivery for TMS, that's Toyota Motor Sales, which is their marketing division. And it says a lease associate named Michael Marcillo. So that would be who controlled this or owned it. And I tried Googling his name and tried looking on LinkedIn, and I can't find anything on that individual. So I don't know what all was involved there. TMS has a lot of people that kind of move through and upwards and come and go. So it just could have been an employee at the time for Toyota marketing. So the next service, February of 2019, they note that it is a TMS lease maintenance vehicle, 10,500 miles. Also in February of 2019, the right front wheel was replaced because it was bent so badly, and a new tire, and they said due to it hitting something. So, not surprised. Low profile tires, these are pretty durable wheels, but they do bend. They are repairable, but if you hit something hard enough, then it's going to need to be replaced. July of 2019, again, TMS lease car, 15,000 mile service. September of 2019 at 17,000 miles. The AC seems weak, and they don't say what's done here. And I think this is when the second owner just acquired the car. So a month later, in October of 2019, again with AC issues, and they state, install the SOP, the special ordered part. That's probably an AC servo, I'm just guessing, or more, one or more of them replaced there. A couple days later, still in October of 2019, more AC servo issues, and they said that the Bluetooth is acting up. And there is a reprogram for the Bluetooth, but I don't think it applies to the 2018s. I think it was only the 16 and 17s. So they were having some issues there. Again, in October of 2019, the AC is not keeping the programming. I'm not sure if that means like when you get back in the car, it goes and does something wild. It doesn't say what was done here, but it sounds to me like if you're gonna go test drive this car, check out the HVAC servos, set one side to max hot, one side to max cold, cycle through everything, flip sides, kind of mess with the AC controls. That would be something I would definitely check out on this car, knowing that it's had a history. And that was 7 years ago, but it is a history in this car. December of 2019, front and rear brake pads only, not rotors. So at 20,000 miles, it still got the original rotors. November of 2021, 36,000 miles. They noted a chirping sound from the engine compartment. You've watched these videos long enough, you know what that is. That's the high pressure fuel pumps. They're mechanical. They're driven off of the camshafts on the top back of the engine. They make noise, they chirp. That's just the nature of them. You'll see that complaint in a lot of histories on these cars. That's just what they sound like. September of 2023, at 63,000 miles, the 60,000 mile service with the brake fluid and with the spark plugs being changed. So the 60,000 mile service is done, but this car's at almost 120,000 now, so it will need it definitely being done again. March of 2024, 73,000 miles, 4 new tires, and they noted Goodyear Eagles, and the photos now shows it has BF Goodrich tires. So 73,000, 83, 93, 103, 113, 123. So like almost 50,000 miles on the tires if they were replaced here, which is not the case. These tires last 20 to 30,000 miles. So I would assume if that was 50,000 miles ago, tires last 20 to 30, they were replaced. Here it is. It's probably due for tires again pretty soon. At the service, they did front pads again. So again, that's about 50,000 miles ago, and resurface the front rotors. That tells me the rotors that are on this car are original, and you can see how worn thin they are. I don't know why it hasn't been done, but like the slots are disappearing. So the rotors are dangerously thin when you see them like that. Definitely need to do brakes right away. And at the same service, they also replaced the water pump. And that's not uncommon to see, but at this kind of mileage, I've seen a few like this. And so there's a weep hole at the bottom of the water pump. And so it'll just drip out a little coolant when the little O-ring inside it fails. And that's probably what was done here. October of 2024, 90,000 miles. They noted a fuel pump replacement under ZX08F. And I tried Googling that. I don't know what that is. The JLB recall, that's the high pressure fuel pumps. I don't think that applies to this being a later 2018. I tried researching it a little bit, and I don't know what it is. Unless they replace the low pressure fuel pump, which is now under a recall as of April of 2026. Not sure what that is, but something along the lines of the fuel pump was replaced here. December of 2024 at 95,000 miles, the drive belt was starting to crack and they replaced it along with the brake fluid. The 100,000 mile service is when the coolant is usually due, but it's not a big deal, I guess, because the water pump was replaced at 73,000 miles. So it has fairly recent coolant, like 50,000 miles ago. April of 2026 at 118,000 miles, which is basically right now, that's the last service. It's just an oil change. So what is not done? I don't see any replacement of the adaptive damping shocks, the AVS system. They were known to leak. They had a defective internal oil seal. Even when they were brand new, some of them made it to 70, 80,000 miles. Would fully expect that at least one or more of the shocks on this car are probably leaking. So if you go and drive this and it feels extra bouncy or anything like that, probably need shocks. Get under there and look at the shocks and see if they're leaking. They're not overly expensive, but it is something to note. Front lower control arm bushings, check out the insides of the front tires. If you see any excessive wear, it needs 2 tires, an alignment, and front lower control arm bushings replaced. The valley plate, the 16s and 17s are being affected by it right now. It's a heat cycles and time. It's not necessarily mileage, but this kind of has all of the above. So do a pre-purchase inspection, inspect the valley plate, and see if it's leaking. At this point, I probably wouldn't be surprised, but if it's not, expect to do it in the fairly near future. Brakes on all 4 corners, as I said, we know that needs. Maybe tires. The low pressure fuel pump recall that came out April 8th of 2026. This is April 17th, 2026. So it needs a low pressure fuel pump replaced when the parts are available, which sounds to me like it's going to be May or June of 2026, and you'll have to take this car into the dealer and get that replaced. The 120,000 mile service will be due in 2,000 more miles. Spark plugs, brake fluid, more in-depth service, inspecting the hoses, the belts, everything like that. This car, at this mileage, I would probably look at some of the rubber parts. We know that the belt's been replaced, but maybe the upper and lower radiator hoses, things along those lines. But I don't see anything about the transmission being serviced. I don't see anything about the TVD, the torque vectoring differential, being serviced. So I would do both of those as well. The brakes, as I said, it's $600 DIY, $2,000 to $3,000 if you take it to the dealer. Fluids, $500 to $1,000. Tires, $1,600, call it $2,000 installed. Carbon fiber trim, you know, the 120,000 mile service. There's a lot that would probably need to be done on this car, in excess of $5,000. And so there's money that's going to be needed immediately on this car, especially the brakes, but do the transmission, the TVD, and soon probably the valley plate. And so that brings me to, would I buy this car? At this point, had I not seen the photos and the videos, I would have said if you could get it cheaper. But for the price and the mileage that they're asking right now, my answer would be no. If you could get it cheaper, like low 40s, it may not be bad, because at the end of the day, it is pretty well serviced, but it needs some catching up. And at the current price, no. If I could get it in like the 41 to 42 range, it would make more sense to me. It's a solid driver. It's a Southern car. Has kind of a weird history with the ownership. You know, I mean, I still think it's more than a 3-owner car, but it was a Lexus-owned car early on, but it doesn't appear like it was a driving school car. The big detracting factor to me is that it doesn't have the Mark Levinson audio. That would be a deal killer for me. I think the Mark Levinson in these sound awesome, and you know, for a factory stereo. And I haven't been in one of these in a GS without it. I've been in some of the other Lexus models, but not a GS without the Mark Levinson. So I can't really speak on that, but that's probably a deal killer for me. It was almost a $1,500 option when it was new. So that's just something to keep in mind, that it's a lower spec car in that regard. So let me know in the comments if the Mark Levinson is a deal killer for you, or any of the other stuff that needs to be caught up. I think that, as I said, it needs to be had cheaper for it to make sense, even though it's a 2018. So you want some of the modern features that the later models had with the 4G telematics unit, the remote start, everything else. If you wanted that, this is your car. If you wanted to get in one and just go drive it and enjoy it, that's probably your car, but you're gonna have to spend some money on it right away. So you get a newer version of the GSF for a discounted price because of the mileage, but you're gonna have to get it significantly cheaper. Maybe you can factor it into the deal if, you know, Porsche of Atlanta, pretty large dealership, you know, if it's gonna be a deal killer for them to lose a sale on not doing brakes, maybe you can talk them into doing the brakes as part of it. That would be an immediate safety concern for me. Everything else, it seems to be, you can fix it over time. You know, the carbon fiber trim you can fix over time. You can get the transmission serviced soon. You can get the 60,000 mile service, 120,000 mile service done in the next 2,000 to 5,000 miles. It doesn't have to be right at 120,000. Some of these people, you know, the 60,000 mile service doesn't get done until 90,000 sometimes. But you know, things like that you can do over time, kind of stretch it out a little bit if it's budget that you're concerned with here. But overall, not a bad buy. It just gonna have to put some more money into it. VIN 2711. Thanks again for watching. We'll see you soon.